Doc Rivers was fired yesterday, and Daryl Morey, the Sixers general manager, met with the media yesterday, and he talked about moving forward, whose decision it was, and how Joel Embiid took the news that Doc had been fired.
I think it's natural to be very close with the people in the locker room. He was very close with Coach Rivers. Yeah, he was shocked about the change, and it's my job to help convince him that the new coach is someone that he'll have a great relationship with as well.
When do you run it by Joel Embiid? Do you run it by him after you've made the decision or before? Do you give him a heads up that you're going to fire Doc Rivers? Do you allow him to have a say in this? Because he does love Doc Rivers. At what point, if you're in the front office, do you go to your star player or players and say, we're thinking of doing this? Because it sounds like Matt Ishbia with the Phoenix Suns at least conferred with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant about firing Monty Williams and that they were okay with this. I don't know what happened in Milwaukee, Mike Budenholzer, but, you know, these are good teams, good situations. And then Doc Rivers, you're going to move on from him. And Daryl Morey said, look, I pulled the trigger. I made the call. I fired Doc Rivers. He was my recommendation, and I decided that we were going to move on from him. But I don't know at what point. And it's a dangerous precedent when you're going to go to somebody and say, hey, what do you think? I think if you're helping the team, deferring money, like Tom Brady, it felt like he should have been in at least conversations. Now, how many other? Patrick Mahomes, right? Couple of rings, deferring money, going to help you out. Do you go to him? When do you go to him? What happens if you say, hey, at some point, we're going to have to release Travis Kelce? Hey, it just doesn't make sense. Or we want to bring in this offensive lineman. What do you think? Like, at what point do you then, or do you at all? Because once again, if you go down that road and you go, hey, we're thinking about, or what do you think about doing this? Yeah, Marv.
Is it when you start winning rings is when they start asking you, what do you think about this, rather than, hey, I know you're the MVP, but you're just the MVP?
Well, you know, Deshaun Watson had input in Houston after his, second year, which was crazy for the coaching search. Remember, he was upset that they didn't bring in Eric Bieniemy, and that started the rift, or, you know, added to the rift between those two. I just think, remember the Packers, did they talk to Aaron Rodgers about what he wanted them to do in the draft? And then all of a sudden it's like, we're drafting your replacement. You know, it's not like you go, hey, Aaron, come here. If Jordan Love's available, we're going to take him in the first round. How do you think that conversation would have gone over? Probably not too well. Yeah, Paul.
It seems like you got to pick the least awkward situation, because if Daryl Morey goes to Joel Embiid, hey, I just want to give you, run this by you. We're thinking about firing Doc Rivers. And he goes, no. Then you have a real situation. If it's awkward if you give him a heads up, we're firing Doc Rivers in an hour. I want to let you know before the media knows, before anybody knows, this is our decision. I want to make sure you're included beforehand, but no input.
Yes.
That's less, I think that's less dangerous.
Yes, Eden.
Why is it such a taboo thought of owners and GMs having open communication with players about whether it's the coach being hired or fired, or what players they might bring in, or things like that?
Well, at what age do I bring you into the conversation? Like, if you're 20, like Joe Burrow's, 25? Do I bring him into the conversation of, this is what we're going to, hey, we're not going to take an offensive lineman, we're going to take your teammate from LSU. Or we're not going to take your teammate from LSU, we're going to take an offensive lineman. I don't know what that sliding scale is where you go, all right, you've earned the right to have a seat at the big boy table. So I don't know.
I mean, I would think that you would want someone's input, depending on who the player is, on their teammates. I don't know, can you play with this guy or not? Why does a scout have to say, yes, they will play together?
Okay, but if I get input, that's different. I still have to make the decision. Like, I'll respect your input, but I have to make, a decision. I can't give you veto power as a star player.
Yeah, I don't know.
Right?
Well, I mean, I feel like some players would have that. Like Steph Curry should. Steph Curry should have veto power. Hell no, not that dude. No way. LeBron James absolutely should.
Yeah.
He actually starts the conversation. He calls the GM. I'm going to give you a heads up. Here's who I'm bringing in.
Yeah, I'm bringing in Russell Westbrook. Just want to give you a heads up here. Yes, Todd.
But a sensitive player might have it like, oh, you respect me enough to just kind of include me and looking for my ideas, but ultimately you're going to do what you want anyway. So, why even bother?
I would want to give you a heads up, but I would also, if you're going to ask Joe Burrow, hey, you played against this guy. What do you think of him? Hey, he played on your team at LSU. What do you think? Then I would be crazy not to consider that. If you went to Aaron Rodgers and you said, look, we're going to cut your good buddy David Bakhtiari, Aaron Rodgers might fight for him to stay on the roster because he's his buddy. And it might not be the right decision. I remember Michael Jordan, when he first started with the Bulls, he wanted to bring in players that management said, no, we're not bringing in Walter Davis. Walter Davis is old. He's got bad knees. Mike wanted to keep Charles Oakley. And they're like, no, we're not keeping Charles Oakley. Yes, Eden.
But so you say Aaron Rodgers, and you go to him and say, we're going to get rid of David Bakhtiari, and he fights for him. And then they say, well, we're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
He's going to be upset.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they could just cut David Bakhtiari without giving him any heads up whatsoever, and he's going to be upset.
Well, no.
I mean, either way.
I could give him a heads up that we're going to fire, or we're going to cut David Bakhtiari. Okay, what's worse? I don't run it by you, or I do run it by you, and then we cut your friend.
I would say with a guy like Aaron Rodgers, clearly not giving him a heads up is way worse.
Yeah, so
infinitely worse.
I would think that star players earn that, a heads up. Joel Embiid is probably not too pleased with Daryl Morey for firing Doc Rivers. But that's where Daryl Morey has got to smooth this over and say, no, we're going to get the right coach for you to take you to the next level.